Hello everyone, and welcome to this After Effects and Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. My name is Stan Valov, and today we're gonna be continuing on from last time, where we made this super cool kind of looping arcane orb effect, and yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So let's get to it. So the first thing I did was pre-render our looping effect, so I don't have to preview it all the time and make the process a little bit faster. And in order to make this into kind of a working texture that I can use in Unreal Engine 4, I'm going to be using After Effects script called Sheeta, and it's super useful for creating sprite sheets from After Effects. I'll put the link in the description and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so we have, before I can just click the save sprite sheet and magically create the sprite sheet, first I have to set it up properly. Last time we made our composition 3 seconds long so we can have a easy loop, but this time I'm going to be making it 2.4. And the reasoning for that is I want our sprite sheet to be 8 by 8, so 64 in total frames. And because our frame rate is 30 in After Effects, Sheeta takes every frame of the composition and turns it into just a part of the sprite sheet. There's going to be 2.4 in total, 64 frames, and that's where we're going to get our 8 by 8 sprite sheet. Okay. Next, what I want to do is I want to retime our looping using a time remap in After Effects, so that way I'll be able to keep the looping effect. So I'm going to pull the last keyframe a little bit more. Yep. And then just to make sure that everything is good, there's a first frame, there's a last frame. Okay, looks good. And that's about it. So next I just have to click Save Sprite Sheet. I'm going to save it into my tutorial folder. And I'm going to call it Arcane Orb 8 by 8. Okay. It's gonna be fairly quick. There we go. And our texture is gonna be a little bit big since every frame is gonna be 512 by 512, so that's gonna make I think 4000 by 4000 texture, and you can just resize in Photoshop, so it's not that big of a problem. Okay, so let's go ahead, get our texture, drag it, and drop it into Unreal Engine 4. Alright, just to preview it. Okay, there's our awesome looking sprite sheet. Has many orbs. And if you notice, our first and last frame gonna look very similar, which means our looping effect is gonna be perfect inside of Unreal Engine. Okay, for this tutorial I'm gonna be using a particle system to make each particle have the texture of this looping effect. And to do that, first I'm gonna go ahead, make a folder. I'm gonna call it Arcane Orb Particle System. I'm gonna move this texture in there. Let's move here. Okay, that's cool. But first of all, I have to create a new material for our looping texture. I'm gonna call it M Arcane Orb 8 by 8. And then here, I'm just gonna do a very, very basic setup. I'm gonna drag our texture into the material, and then I'm gonna make a particle color so that I can control the color of the particle in here. And just drag. Oh wait. First I have to change this to translucent unlit. And then in here, I'm going to drag this into emissive color. And then create a multiply by holding M and left button. And then just plug both of these into the opacity so we can get our material. Oh, there's our material. It's kind of weird right now because it has all the 64 orbs, but we'll fix that in the particle system. So let's go ahead and make a particle system. So particle system dot p underscore arcane orb, and then head into cascade. Yeah. Okay. First of all, what we need to do is change a few settings in here. Sub UV, this is what we need. And in here, we need to change it to linear blend. And then this is all our images. So we have 64 frames, so 8 by 8. And then now you'll notice that it's gonna make the default material disappear. So let's go ahead, change our material to the one we just made. So M arcane orb 8 by 8. And then for it to properly work, we have to add in a sub UV property. There we go. And it's still kind of invisible. Give it a second. Okay, did I apply this? Apply. Just to make sure everything works. Oh, there we go. So we have our orbs. Now right now they're not doing the effect because we haven't set up the sub image index properly. But first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and change. I don't really want any velocity, so I'll just go ahead and change this to constant. I don't really want that many particles, so I'm gonna change the particle to let's go with 1. Actually, no, let's create a burst. And create a burst for this. So get a burst, so it's gonna create 1 particle at the start of the whole thing. And then let's make the emitter duration 5 seconds so it doesn't create that many particles. Okay. Save this. And then there you go. Now it doesn't do anything, it doesn't look that cool yet. But next thing I want to do is I want to increase the lifetime to maybe 2.5 so that it lives a little bit longer. There we go. I don't really want it to kind of fade away, so let's change the alpha to constant. Have it constant 1, so just stays the same alpha values. And okay, let's tweak. This is where the magic kind of happens. So we go in here, and then this is gonna be our little curve editor. So from 0 to 1 right now, it's not going through any of the sub images, and because we have 64, we want our value to be 64. So in here, I'm gonna click all, so I get a nice view of the graph, and there we go. It kind of works. Ooh, whoops. I kind of zoomed in a little bit. There we go. Zoomed in a little bit too much. Nope. Nope. Okay, perfect. No! Mouse, why? Okay. So it does kind of appear and disappear, so let's maybe go ahead and make it 5 seconds. Now, when you kind of stretch the lifetime a little bit too much, it starts to look very choppy, and that's because it's running the 64 frames over 5 seconds, so it's running at a really low frame rate, and that's why we made the the particle system loop so that we can kind of combat this a little bit. So if I change the 64 to maybe 128, it's going to loop once, but it's going to run at a proper frame rate. So it's really handy that it loops, so I can make the particle last forever and it's still going to kind of run nicely and it's going to look good. Okay, so let's drag and drop it into our world just to see what it looks like, get a basic idea. Yep, it's very tiny right now, so let's go into size and maybe just set the size to constant and maybe set it to 70 by 70 by 70. Okay, there we go. It looks a little bit. Oh, looks a little bit better. And now we're going to change the color values so that we can get a nice glow on the effect. So in here, let's go into our color values. Let's switch off the sub UV for now. Go into our color graph, switch off alpha, and then go into color and see how it works. So right now, it's not really doing much. It's just going from white to white, so I don't really want that. Let's go with a really crazy kind of blue. So maybe 60 for blue, 15 for green, and 3 for red. Yeah, that's a really cool looking color. And then since it's doing the color over life, we can also change, we can keep adding points and making like really crazy color changes, but for this, let's not go too crazy and just keep kind of similar colors. So 60, 15, 3. We can make it kind of darken and lighten up or flicker or something, but for now, let's keep this. Okay. Right now it's not really doing much. It's not really adding much bloom. Let's play the game. See our little particle. There it is. It's really cool. It looks like a Hadouken. And it doesn't really do anything. But I want it to kind of glow a little bit more. So in our default level, I'm just gonna go into the global post process and kind of bump up the bloom. So let's go with something crazy like 5. See if that helps. Or do I need to keep adding more and more? Maybe 8. Nope. Still not adding. Okay. Because the preview in Cascade shows it a little bit different from the one you get in the world. So sometimes it depends on the level of how much bloom you're gonna get. But so far, I can kind of bump up the numbers more, just kind of go crazy, see if it works. Let's go with just 3 times each color that we normally had. 150. 150 is kind of too much. Let's see. Yep, there you go. There's our super cool bloom, and even casts a nice little lens flare. So it's perfect for a, kind of energy blast type of magic spell. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Now we can do a lot more with this effect to kind of add more variety and turn it into a proper spell effect. So I'm going to be making some changes inside of our material to give it some more options that we can change inside Cascade. And to do that, I'm going to be adding a power node. So go ahead and add power to our opacity so that we can change the look of the texture and make kind of a secondary particle system that kind of emits from the orb and have it look slightly different. And to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and plug the multiply into the base and then put this into opacity just to show you what it does. What power does is basically square. I believe it's square root, so it's kind of difficult to explain in math, but it kind of subdivides the numbers in our texture and gives us a slightly more transparent texture. So if you notice, here's our can I zoom in? Not really. Okay, you can kind of see from here that in the texture this one is nice and light, and then this one becomes a little bit darker. So in here you can see the alpha kind of start to erode, and it gives the effect a little bit different. It just makes it look a little bit different. And right now the default is 2, so if I go 4, it's gonna go even further and make it very much. Let's go ahead and apply this. And it's gonna make it yeah, kind of different from the one we had prior to that. So I can control it and cascade using a dynamic parameter. So let's go ahead and add one. And then this way I can kind of animate it so that it starts off at regular texture and then kind of drops off into this alpha eroded. Let's go in here, parameter 0, call it power. Then plug the red into the exponent. Okay, so since right now it's taking the default value of 0, it's kind of making everything white because it doesn't really know what to do. But we're gonna change that in here. We're gonna go ahead, add a dynamic parameter, and then sometimes it doesn't really show the name, but you can kind of, it does apply the effect, just doesn't show the name properly. So in here we know this is our power, so yeah, right now it's 0, so you definitely know that the dynamic parameter works. So in here, in the parameter value, let's make it constant curve. Look at our curves. Okay, and then I want it right now for it to be at two keyframes, so from 0 to 1, and at 0 I want it to be the default, so 1, so our initial look of the particle, and in overlife it becomes, well, right now it becomes a square, which is not cool, but I want it to become 4. So yeah, you can see it overlife kind of eroding and making the effect a little bit less saturated, let's say that. Okay, and this way we can make a duplicate. First, it's probably a good thing to do. Let's call this arcane orb main. Let's make a duplicate of this and call it arcane orb waves. Yeah. So this way we can kind of start making a secondary effect, give it a different color. So I'm gonna make it, maybe we'll go with blue. Purple looks pretty cool. So yeah, let's make it purple. So for purple we can get 60, 45 for red, and then 6 for green. Let's turn this off for now, just to see our purple. Let's give this 55. It doesn't really matter, the color's too much. Maybe 40. Now that's kind of pink, so or violet, but it looks pretty good. And then now I kind of want to have these particles kind of emit from our primary one, so that while it's doing its thing, you can have these little waves come out of it. So for that reason, I'm going to create a size over life, size by life, and then give it some cool looking effects. So let's make it size by life, maybe 2, 2, 2. So now you can see it kind of grow. And now we can go back to our alpha, give it an alpha constant curve. So for a moment, give it 2 points, so it here at the end of its life it's gonna be 0, and at the start of the life it's gonna be 1. So there we go. Have a cool looking kind of wave. And if we reduce the lifetime to, let's say, 2, you can even give it some variance. So let's say, give it 1.6 to maybe 3. It's gonna go a little bit faster. So it's just a matter of tweaking, really. Let's go ahead, 64 again to our life, just to keep everything kind of relatively nice and smooth. We can go back to our dynamic and kind of make the alpha erode even more. So it starts at 1 and goes to maybe 16. Let's see how that works. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And then make it kind of rotate so that it makes it less obvious that you're using the same texture for both. So in here we get our rotation, initial rotation, and then rotation rate. Alright, that's too spinny, a little bit too spinny. It's kind of funny. But yeah, let's get our rotation rate at 0.1. So yeah, let's see how it looks. There's our waves. Let's see how it looks along with the other one. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It is missing a few things. So let's say, I think what we need to do is add a few more waves to this effect to make it a little bit, and also have it not always spawn at the same time. So for our secondary, for our waves, I'm gonna go back to rate. I'm gonna change, just get rid of this burst and go back to rate. So 5, let's say. Oh, that's kind of crazy. It's a little bit too crazy. That looks kind of cool, but too crazy. So in rate, we can actually set up a rate that kind of changes. So we can set up a curve. We can have our rate at 0. We can have a rate of 3. At 0.5, we can have a rate of 1, and then at maybe 3. So this doesn't go along with the lifetime. This is, I think, the emitter duration, so you can change the spawn a little bit more. So at 3, okay, actually I added one too many. 1, 2, 3. So at 0, it's gonna be, at time 0, we're gonna be spawning at a rate of 3. At time 1, we're gonna be spawning at a rate of 1, and then at time 2, we're gonna stop spawning. So it kind of starts it spawns a few and then it stops, and spawns a few and then it stops, that sort of thing. And now we can make it even better by changing this. The initial size is okay. Size by life we can change a little bit more. And also we gave the lifetime. I guess we can give the the initial size kind of more variance. So if we give it a uniform distribution, we started off at a minimum of 70, so let's have a minimum of 70 so that we don't get any circles in the middle, and then a maximum of, let's say, 120. Okay. Let's see. Oh, actually 120 might be too much. Maybe 90. Okay, yeah, that looks kind of cool. Now, a few more tweaks are kind of necessary. In our color over life, we have the, when it spawns, it kind of spawns really abruptly. So we want it to be kind of smoother in and out. And to do that, I'm gonna tweak the alpha over life, move all, the whole control, left click to make a key point, and I'm gonna set the beginning at 0, so it kind of starts a little bit smoother. Make this into a auto clamped so that we have a nice curve. Go back to 1. Yeah, now it spawns a little bit better. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You can keep on making cool stuff in here, keep adding more particle systems, have some secondary particles, have some light, but you know, maybe that'll be for a future tutorial. I hope you like this one, hope you found it useful. Leave me some comments if you have any questions, and yeah, many more tutorials to come. Bye bye.